In the darkness over Iranian airspace, a worst-case scenario became reality. A U.S. F-15E Strike Eagle had been shot down, forcing its two crew members to eject deep inside hostile territory. One was rescued within hours. The other, wounded, was left hiding in rugged mountainous terrain, while Iranian forces launched an urgent manhunt. This was no longer a routine combat search and rescue mission. It had become a race against time, intelligence, and the operational reach of U.S. Special Forces. According to international sources, the CIA took part in a large-scale deception campaign designed to distort Iran's perception of the isolated serviceman's true location. At the same time, special operations units and supporting air power deployed multiple layers of protection to clear the way for the rescue. In that moment, every passing minute carried life or death consequences. This was not simply an effort to bring one serviceman home safely. For Washington and its allies, it was a vivid demonstration of a core principle. No one gets left behind, even in the most dangerous and politically sensitive combat environments. When the F-15E Strike Eagle was shot down and Iran's manhunt began to tighten, the CIA did more than help locate the isolated serviceman. It launched a deception campaign designed to distort Iran's perception and buy precious time for U.S. forces to organize the rescue. According to published reports, the core message of that operation was simple: make Iran believe that the United States had already found the serviceman and was secretly moving him out of the area. What mattered most was not spectacle. It was calculated confusion. While Iranian forces were forced to divide their attention, chasing conflicting signals and verifying contradictory clues, the U.S. military moved in parallel with other supporting measures. These included electronic warfare and strikes on approach routes to slow the pursuing forces. In other words, this was not merely an intelligence feint. It was part of a coordinated effort, linking intelligence, air power, and special operations forces. And it was that narrow window of time, created by the deception campaign, that allowed the rescue team to close in on the target under extremely dangerous conditions. In missions like this, victory does not always begin with the first shot fired. Sometimes, it begins by forcing the enemy to look in the wrong direction, at the exact moment that matters most. In rescue missions for downed pilots behind enemy lines, the deciding factor is not just speed or firepower. What truly makes the difference is coordination between intelligence and combat forces. In Iran, that was exactly what allowed the United States to turn an extremely dangerous situation into a successful rescue. According to published report, the CIA played a critical role, helping locate the isolated serviceman, track the situation, and misdirect the enemy. Meanwhile, U.S. Special Operations Forces prepared for the approach and the extraction to bring him out safely. Once the deception campaign began to work, the rescue force was no longer operating in total uncertainty. The Americans had enough information to believe they could reach the target before Iran tightened the noose. Reuters sources said the isolated serviceman had established communication and confirmed his identity. That was a critical step to ensure the rescue force was not walking into a trap. At the same time, the U.S. military launched electronic warfare measures and struck key approach routes to slow Iran's response. The rest belonged to CSAR units and special operations forces. Move in fast, identify the right target, and get out before the enemy could close the encirclement. This was not a large operation in the sense of spectacle. It was a precise operation where every decision carried life or death consequences. What made this mission stand out was not its scale, but the synchronization between every moving part. The CIA created a window of time, and U.S. Special Operations Forces used that exact window to complete the rescue. In modern warfare, that is what a successful mission looks like. You win with information, with tempo, and with the ability to act before the enemy fully understands what is happening. In U.S. military doctrine, CSAR, combat search and rescue, is not just about bringing a serviceman home. It is a mission to extract U.S. or allied forces from extreme danger, even when they are isolated behind enemy lines. For the U.S. Air Force, this is one of the hardest types of missions. It requires entering hostile environments, identifying the right target, and extracting before the enemy can tighten their grip. In Iran, the brutal nature of this mission was laid bare. After the F-15E Strike Eagle was shot down, the two crew members were forced to eject separately. One was rescued quickly. The other, wounded, took refuge in a mountain pass and had to establish contact and confirm his identity with the U.S. forces to ensure the rescue team would not walk into a trap. In missions like these, time is the most ruthless factor. The longer it drags on, the greater the risk of detection, encirclement, or capture. CSAR operates under a cold, calculated logic. Identify quickly, approach at the right moment, extract swiftly, and retreat just as fast. According to Reuters, to pave the way for the rescue, the CIA launched a deception campaign designed to make Iran believe that the U.S. had already found the missing serviceman and was moving him before the real mission began. At the same time, the U.S. military carried out electronic warfare and struck key approach routes to slow Iran's response. But even when the plan seemed to be going smoothly, CSAR was never a clean mission. Reuters reported the operation almost failed when two MC-130 aircraft experienced mechanical issues, putting around 100 special forces at risk of being stranded in Iran. Ultimately, U.S. forces had to deploy additional aircraft in waves to evacuate the personnel and destroy the broken vehicles on site to prevent the exposure of sensitive equipment. Moments like these show that CSAR is not just about rescuing people. It's a race between speed, discipline, and the ability to adapt under extreme pressure. That's why the success of this operation isn't just a testament to U.S. Special Forces. It also reveals a core truth of modern warfare. In CSAR, the winning side is not always the one with the bigger firepower. It's the side that identifies the target earlier, acts faster, and leaves before the enemy can close the net. The rescue of the F-15E Strike Eagle crew members in Iran is more than a story of bravery. It shows that modern warfare is decided by more than just firepower. In this operation, according to public reports, the CIA launched a deception campaign while the U.S. military carried out electronic warfare, targeted key approach routes, and cleared the way for the rescue team to reach the target before Iran could close in. The CIA did not appear as a frontline assault force, but their role was pivotal at a different point. They created confusion at the right moment, forcing the enemy to respond in the wrong direction and fall behind the tempo. In operations like this, just a few minutes can determine success or failure. And it was that window of time that allowed U.S. forces to complete a mission that could have collapsed at any moment. What makes this operation special is not that it created a completely new doctrine, but that it demonstrates the increasingly tight coordination between intelligence, electronic warfare, and special operations forces. In other words, this operation clearly illustrates how the U.S. and its allies are relying more and more on information superiority to create operational advantage. This insight is derived from the publicly released details of the campaign. The biggest lesson lies here. In modern confrontations, victory is not just about being more accurate with firepower. It belongs to the side that sees earlier, misleads the enemy longer, and acts faster in the decisive moment. That's why this rescue mission didn't just bring one isolated U.S. serviceman home safely. It sent a very clear strategic message. On the 21st century battlefield, whoever controls the tempo of information controls the life or death opportunity.